Hi, I'm Vida Clocky, and I'm here today to show you how I work with lusters and how I disperse them with turpentine. We're going to use a technique like I used on this tea caddy with 3 different colors. I decided a quick little demo. I'll do the border of the pine cones with the luster technique, and you'll find the pine cone uh, demonstration video on the link below. So if you want to come closer, I will show you my supplies for the luster. I like to lay my color samples out in front of my bottles, so as I'm working I can remember what color I had just used. That's a good idea if you can. I have a whole bag of different color samples. Now I've got these lined up from light to dark, orange, amber, dark brown. And I have little clean dishes I'm going to put the luster in. And these little pool noodles work really well to hold your bottles from tipping over while you're pouring or putting it into your other container here. So it helps prevent spilling, which is always a good thing. Alright, now I just use old synthetic brushes, and when I'm all done I'll show you how I clean those. And I'm going to use distilled turpentine to run my colors together. I could have probably resisted this inner edge, but I decided being it's just the border that we're going to do, a simple little border, that I will just wipe it clean afterwards. So I will put a little distilled turpentine into a clean container, and I'll get my colors ready here and put them in these containers. What I do is I take little coffee sticks and cut them in half, and this is what I use to put the colors into my containers. It's not good to dip with your brush directly into your bottle because you can contaminate your lusters. So I will not put that back in the bottle for that reason. Now, Doris O'Keeley's colors are dropper bottles, so I don't need a stick. That's the amber. Might be a little bit too much there, but okay, we'll keep that orange there, amber there, because in liquid form lusters are all the same color, so it's very easy to get confused. Here's my dark brown luster. Get this container out, and I work on tissue paper because you have less chance of lint, and lint and lusters are not friends. They don't work well together. And lint will leave spots on your luster. Alright, we're ready to go. So I'm going to have a brush for each color. And I've got my turpentine poured. So I'll probably start out with orange first. So what I'll do is apply this in different areas. I don't need a whole lot. I leave space between my luster colors. Maybe do a little bit of that edge too. I just thought that these colors would be interesting with the pine cones. Now if it fires with a little bit more orange than anything, I'll do more of a wash of yellow-red on those pine cones in a separate fire. Alright, so that's my orange. Let's go to amber. Again, 3 places. I try not to touch the colors. And one thing about lusters, you never know what you're going to get, so it's always a surprise when you open the kiln. I get most of my lusters from Nancy Bergman, and I still get a few from Doris Akili. She still carries lusters also. Now, a third different brush, I'm going to go in with dark brown in between. Try not to blend my colors here too much. If I leave a little white here and there, it's almost like it ends up another color. White being another color. I didn't want it to get too terribly dark, so I didn't want to use a lot of brown, or dark brown. I think I got all the way around with a little brown. I'll know when I open the kiln. Alright. So now I'll take a clean, maybe like a pointed brush, rather small, not real big, into the turp, and touch those edges together. And I'd like to wipe my brush a little between each time onto my paper towel. Get the excess color off. I'm not going to worry about what's rolling into the middle yet. Just want to touch and create a marbleized look and let it run. Let it do its thing. Try not to get in there and paint. Let the lusters work together and do their patterns. It just doesn't look as nice if you get in there and try to paint these colors in. You can see I'm not being too particular here. I'm not soaking this too much with turpentine, because the more turp you use, the more you're diluting your color. Now I'm trying to roll a little bit down here onto that edge, coax it over a little bit here and there. If you get a big buildup of color, it can ash off in the fire, so you don't want to get your colors too heavy. You can see the turpentine is doing its work. Well, this is going to be too dark here, so I'm going to break that up. With a little turpentine. Check my edge. This is fluted a little bit, so it's catching in those little cracks. So I'm going to rock and roll this here in a minute. And this is mostly turp, so that should evaporate and it shouldn't ash off. It's when it's too much actual luster that you get a buildup and it will ash off. So I'm looking for a marbleized look, and I think it's coming here. When it quits rolling, then I quit tipping. When it dries and it stops, then we know it's going to do all that it's going to do. Alright, I see a little movement yet. It's still marbleizing somewhat. Maybe I'll break this up just a tiny bit where it's filling in on that fluted edge. Alright, I'm going to set this down and let it dry a little bit before I clean the inside. I want to show you how I clean my brushes, and then I'll come back and clean this up a little after it has settled. What I use are 3 glass bottles of acetone, and I clean each brush in each jar. And by the time I get to the 3rd jar, the luster is out of the brush. So that's first cleaning. And these are old synthetic brushes, and acetone is really hard on everything, including these brushes, so they're not expensive brushes. Second jar. You can see they take a little abuse. This way you don't have to have a separate brush for every luster color. And now the 3rd. And I keep everything in a kit, so I don't have to scrounge everything up every time I want to sit down and do a little luster. Okay, now everything's coming out clean. And when that first jar gets really dirty, I'll dump it, fill that with fresh, clean acetone, and move the jars down. And that will become my cleanest bottle of acetone. Okay, so that's how I clean my brushes. Let's go back to the tile. I'm going to just take a little turpentine here and go around the edge. Do a little housekeeping here. I thought this might make an interesting edge for these pine cones. And we'll find out when it's all fired. And many times if I'm not completely happy with, if like say I missed going around with too much brown or not enough brown, I'll do a second fire here and there. I'll hit it with a additional luster if I need to, but most times I just let it do its thing, and I'm usually quite satisfied with it. So let's hope the kiln fairy's good to us. I would fire this at about 017. I vent the kiln usually, especially if I have a lot of lusters in the kiln, I usually vent it for about a half hour before I shut the lid then and let the gases escape, because lusters like oxygen, and the more oxygen we give them, the more beautiful they fire. Thank you for joining me with this luster video. I hope you learned a little something about how I set up and how I apply the lusters. Stay tuned and we will show you a photograph of it finished and fired. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel to support me, and also hit the bell button on the lower left. That will give you notification when my new videos come out. If you want any more information on my supplies or seminars, please visit vitascollectibles.com. This is what the fired border looks like, with the lusters, the orange, the amber, and the dark brown, melted together with distilled turpentine. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and that you will follow my videos on YouTube.